All right, we are live. Hi everyone, I'm really excited to interview and host Libo Li. He's a CTO at Catalyst DI. I got to know Libo from his amazing blog I read. I think around March on architecture, his coding journey, and he had made a graph of all the libraries and technology he used, and also he has some amazing blogs on his website. And I also watched his session on Your Desk University, which was quite insightful about managing data. And I thought there's a lot of thing we could learn from Livo. So, and I approached him, and he is very supportive, and he was ready to share more knowledge with us and more focus. This session is more focused on the implementation and the process part. So, without much ado, let's start. And thanks a lot, Livo, for joining us.
No, absolutely. Thank you. It's good to, be on your show. Really, kudos to you for putting yourself out there, really supporting the community and really bringing a lot of knowledge together. So hopefully, I can help with my small slice of, managing data. So outline just kind of what we're going to cover. So briefly go over my background, kind of where this perspective comes from, how I look at data problems, especially in organizations, and then really kind of the perspective of data tools as data interfaces to kind of these broader sources of truth that companies should really start to build around. So who am I? I am a classically trained architect, graduated from Rice University, and then went on quite a journey from then till now, where I'm now at Catalyst DI, responsible for building the platform technology and kind of building the team and the process around that. In my meantime, I love to code, I love to take care of my plants and hang out with my wife. And if I had to say, the one thing that I'm really passionate about chasing is that translation between real and digital space. And a lot of kind of my work has been, tangentially touching, if not really focused on that. So I think, whenever we hear people talk about data in AEC, it's usually very constrained. It's like, oh, we're just talking about the data, but really it's kind of an overall and organization-wide problem. Data is kind of useless if you don't let people use it. A lot of companies have kind of this BIM island approach to their model. You get a bunch of technical guys, they sit in a room or they sit in their corners in different parts of the country, and then they do all the BIM tech. But what I feel this creates, and I've been in some of these situations, it really makes the rest of the company feel like they can't access this technology or this data. And it creates that artificial barrier of entry, even just psychologically, for them to start using these tools. So the three things that I think organizations should really kind of bring into their practice is one, the self-serve access to data for as many people as possible, to the analysis capabilities, just even fundamental kind of analysis, and then really giving people the time and the freedom to explore and the ability to make mistakes or even find the insights that they're really interested in. I think a lot of people, especially on the outside of BIM Islands, say that they're not data people, but I think everyone is a data person. Everyone's working with data, and everyone should have that power to innovate. So your technical people are frustrated because the non-technical people feel like they can't have that data access. But I think once you smooth out that gradient and you empower everyone, everyone's happier because it's much more about teaching and enabling rather than solving, the burning fire right there. So the first thing, the self-serve access to data. Anytime you're in an email chain where someone's asking for a numbers confirmation, that's probably where you should first look at how much inefficiency that kind of data transfer among kind of your peers is doing, right? Like if everyone had somewhere they can look at and say, hey, this is a source of truth that I trust, you eliminate kind of that just confirmation communication. You enable much more time for thinking, design, and all the other fun stuff that people actually want to do. Two, just fundamental analysis capabilities. In especially architecture firms, a lot of designers feel like they can't do math, but you don't need to do math, right? Like you just plug the formula in, learn the basics, and understand how to read the results. creating just like a baseline system to onboard people to analysis tools has enormous benefits, as data analysis tools become easier and easier, and kind of data aggregation tools also become easier and easier to use. And finally, the freedom to explore. If you give people the tools and the capability, but you don't give them the freedom, then nothing happens. So really kind of giving a concerted effort for free exploration of those capabilities and into the company data set to pull out kind of those learnings. And I think, the return on investment will be massive. I can't tell you how much it is, but I think, once people start chasing the problems that they're passionate about and start solving them, you'll just feel the company kind of be a lot smoother, because the right people who experience the problems are figuring out where the pressure points are and how to resolve those kinks. So don't be a data hoarder. This is a problem in every company. Everybody feels like, if I keep my data, that keeps me safe, that keeps my job. That's a sucky way to kind of feel about, your role in the company. Really just work in common data environments, right? Like, if you think about how hard it was for you to find knowledge before Google search and how easy it is now to after, like, it's a completely changes your experience and your approach to the problem. So, having a company and the richness of data that you're producing and improving access to them will completely change even kind of the fundamental ways you think about how we can be more efficient, how we can be more collaborative in the way that we work. This is what, usually a fire at a firm looks like. Everyone gets on a 20-person email chain from like 9 different departments. They're like, okay, what's going on? Like, let me read through this 9,000 emails. And it's not fun, but what it also says is I'm committing a lot of people to the seriousness of the issue, when it really shouldn't be reflective. In kind of this flow system where everyone's reporting to a source of truth, we can actually predict and prevent those issues, because it won't require this sort of lagging communication chain to get to the end person to find the problem for it to come all the way back up in the company. So we can go through building one, really simple example, or we can stop for questions.
I think we can go through the whole and do Q&A at the end.
Awesome. Okay, let's do it. I think I might have to reshare. So you see my Airtable? We're good?
Yep.
Cool. So this is just a fresh Airtable. I like working in Airtable. It's what I got really used to working at, and we work. I built a lot of like different, use case based Airtables. But you can do this in, Google Sheets. You can do this in Excel. You could do this in any, I don't know, ClickUp, Monday, like whatever sort of like data aggregation source of truth that you can find. So the scenario that I've been through a lot is layout requests. I think, if anyone's in sort of a workplace design, they'll probably go through this. So we'll go through that example. Usually what you're looking at when you're tracking that is you're looking at projects. Say you're tracking locations. I don't know, layouts. And part of it is thinking about, okay, what are all these like common entities across your company, and what are the information relationships that you need to kind of carry through, and kind of figure out I guess it's trying to kind of come at it from both ends. One, like figure out what the base entities in this data system is across the company, but also understanding where each person wants to see that data. That makes sense? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I just ramble, so please stop me if it doesn't make sense. So for projects, let's say project 1. Projects are usually at a location. So location. So skip that. So let's say we have, I don't know, Empire State Building. And then we can say, okay, our first 2 projects, they're all at Empire State Building. We could say at the Empire State Building location, I don't know, we have floors, that's an integer. We have 4 of them. Square feet. Have numbers here, but that's efficient. So we have 100K at World Trade Center. And then 4 and 5 are at. Right. So now, you know, your project manager very simply can look up your you know, floors and total square feet while your location manager changes the other thing, right? So even from that, there's that simple split. You're allowing each manager to manage kind of their own set of data, but pull that source of truth where it's needed. So usually when you do layouts, you probably do them against the project. Skip that. So let's say we're doing a layout for project 1. It's going to be an Empire State Building. So usually the project should carry the customer, but depends on, I guess, who you work for and what you consider a project. But let's say for this, let's say we're doing this for Amazon loves office space. Project 2, let's do. So now when you're doing a layout, if you know what project it's for, you should automatically know what customer it's for. Right, so you're now keeping data in 2 places. If you need to reference any customer information on Amazon, it should be right there. So here, you know, as you're developing your data set for customers, everything's linked. So here, let's say we are, you know, I guess usually you want a email, primary contact, and then primary contact name. We can create like another person table to keep expanding on this, but you know, again, you can see how you can start small and continue to grow it. So let's say we're talking to Jeff Bezos. So Jeff at Amazon.com. Preferred spell it stuff at Facebook.com. So now, you know, if you have a question, hopefully this works, about something in the layout, can I do a double lookup? Ooh, I can't. So I think what I need to do is go to project and do a lookup. So again, I'm just doing this live, but depending on kind of what system you work in, you'll have to work through some of these things to figure out, you know, how you get the data in the right place. So here I have a primary contact for a project, which allows me to bring back that thing in. Let's see. So here, oh, I can't. Am I not doing this? Am I not doing this right? Ooh, okay. Oh no, I am doing this right. Sorry, confusing myself. I need to look up from project, primary contact. There we go. Primary contact. So now, if I have a question about this layout, I can, you know, call Jeff. What other things do we usually need from layouts? So we usually want like a desk count. So let's say this is, I don't know, half a desk. So let's say Jeff wants, you know, 10,000 desks. Also do a attachment, You can have any notes, you can have descriptions, but I think what we could try to do is see if we can calculate what the maximum per square foot is if we give him the building. So let's say how we can reach back and find that. So in the project, we have total square feet, which means we can bring total square feet into layout. So let's do that. That's going to be another lookup. So loading location, right? So now we can do a formula. Let's say, I don't know, square feet. So this gives you max square feet per desk. So, you know, without ever doing a layout, you can run a quick gut check. You're like, okay, does this actually fit in the building? It doesn't. Why does that not work? Let's see what the error is. Seems like error calc. Equals not do. Are they not? It's not a number of reported date. Okay. So total square feet, that's why. So total square feet was input as a text field. We need it to be a number. Oof, fun times, guys. So now if we go back, so here, max square feet per desk. So 4 is probably not enough. So, you know, Jeff is going to have to reduce his count to 55. That seems more reasonable. You know, we can probably not even take the whole floor. So the other half of this data that you can start bringing in is things from Revit. So as we're building this, shoot, hopefully I don't have to reshare again. But if you go to airtable.com, API, Airbnb search, that's not the right one. The API for demo base, we're good. So as we're building that out, projects, locations, layouts, customers, Airtable automatically builds a REST API that you can communicate with programmatically. All you have to do is get your API key, plug it into the right sort of requests, and then you can either pull or programmatically push data. So if we go back to our layout, a lot of what we're reconfirming a lot during each time is like, how many desks is in this layout, right? If you just do the layout, you can just push a button and push that data up. So let's say we did that. You know, we can always add a progress. If we push the data, automatically set it to done. Let's say when we finished, we achieved 5,100 desks. You can't have half a desk, so let's set that into an integer. And let's say we accomplished that in square footage. Oh, I have no idea. Let's say we achieved it in that. Some rough numbers. That will again give us, you know, a formula efficiency that we can then compare to total square feet, right? That number. Right, so you get 50 square foot a desk. So then you can compare this back to, you know, your max square foot per desk and all of this stuff to get whatever the formula. Rinse, repeat, right? What you can also do is usually when these requests come in, they're probably coming from someone else. So you can create a form that say, hey, you know, when you're giving me this, when you're asking for a layout, say you're a salesperson or you're a customer success person, right? this is the information I need. Create a form, layout request form, name it, tell me what project it's for, right? So you're feeding in from data that you already own. So, you don't have to do a double lookup. You don't have to make sure everyone knows exactly the right naming, plug in your desk count, any attachments for files, status, things like that, and just hit submit, right? We get a new entry. You can have the new entry come in fresh as like a to-do. So someone on the on the handoff just has to do the layout, push the data up, right? Everything updates. Cool.
Nice. Is there any AEC or BIM template? Like I know you shared that there is Airbnb API for.
So a lot of also what you could do with Airtable that I've done a lot is use the REST API as like an intermediary. So say your project data is coming from like Monograph or like, HubSpot or, Salesforce, like some other data source. You can down sync that into project and say, hey, like no one touch project, all the information in project is automatically managed. But you can still leverage it for, everything else like layouts, customer base and things like that, so that, you have this kind of freedom to prototype usage features as you go. And this kind of goes back into the tool as an interface is Airtable, sheets. As you start connecting it outwards to other data sources, you're starting to use it as kind of that data interface for your job. So you just come to one view, kind of plug all the things you need to do in, and then that's kind of a tool you create yourself.
Got it. And I'm more curious, like what
Mhm.
are the data sources that can be automated or imported in this?
So I think let's go back to. Oh man, you're gonna get a preview of all the craziness I get up to in Airtable. But so through REST API, as long as you build the right sort of data structure in the table, you should be able to feed it from any data source. So there are some integrations between Airtable through like IFTT, is that how you say it? Or like Zapier, that you can just kind of plug and play. But like, let's say like Rhino, Grasshopper to REST, that should be really easy. And then, Dynamo to REST should be really easy as well.
Yeah. So when you say Grasshopper to REST to which will be imported in Airtable, right now it looks like the data is in tabular form. So when
Mhm.
Rhino model, is it as an attachment 3D file or Grasshopper script we are talking, or it's in a JSON format?
Well, it depends on how you want to use it, right? So in a JSON format, you would have to decode it. If you have it in like a file format, you would then have to have a matching software on the other end to use it. So this goes back to like, creating the right kind of usability for that data. A lot of it might just come down to, okay, I have a lot of the stuff that I need in the data in the design model, and what I need to communicate up is say like, this is all the furniture elements that are in this project, right? So what we could do is say, hey, for each layout, let's actually create a elements table that has some sort of corresponding property set to my Revit elements. And all we have to sort of do is create that one-to-many relationship here. Say, hey, for every layout, I actually want to start tracking elements. So instead of just pushing up a number, give me, give me a data set of all the elements. So here, I can have like furniture 1, 2, 3. And then, we can have something that I guess people care about, like desk count. So that should be a number. So, desk chairs are 1, couches might be 3. You can't sit on a light. But now, right, like because you've created this relationship, instead of getting your, can I just do this? Let's try this. Instead of getting your desk count, say through like an aggregation script inside Dynamo or Grasshopper, like producing that effect there, you can kind of take that counting and that aggregation upstream to to here, where you're doing that in the Airtable form. So I think here, this then turns into a formula, right? So I think this is now sum. Oh no, it's a rollup. Rollup. So we want to roll up elements by their desk count, and we want to do a sum values. Update failed. So what did we do wrong? Put values in there. Yeah, there we go. Just have to re-click it. But that becomes an automatic number. So say like you do, another update to that layout, and then now, you have this massive 15-seat couch. This should. Oh, you got to add it to the layout. But that should produce your number, right? Everything's chained. Everybody updates themselves. So as your process grows, as you increasingly automate more steps, these formulas should just carry those traditional steps automatically.
I see. So if I get it right, the real value lies in how we can extract those data points from all the sources and then link and form this relationship in this database management. So for example, like adding grasshopper script as an attachment, I'm not forcing that value, but if we are able to extract like what are the number of room size or chairs in that layout, and that relationship is being extracted in this database, then a lot of like visualization or long term to data values can be generated. Is that right?
Yes. So in short, yes. That's kind of why like I took kind of like a left field approach to this, because like I don't want people to get stuck on that, because then they'll go back to like, hey, let's get a group of technical people and put this in place. It really comes from like, tools like Airtable Sheets are like really easy tools to use, and you should really just allow different parts of your organization to design and create tooling for themselves in this way. And that's kind of really kind of the main point, I guess, is like when we were scaling very rapidly at WeWork, what really helped us is being able to have the tool stay agile to our process. So as we built new ways of doing things, as we connected new parts, the kind of the data structure was able to grow with us. And with a lot of the tools now, where not only is the creation of these data structures easy, but also the changing of them and kind of keeping that data legacy forward. Kind of that data skill set is a huge value add across the company.
Yeah. So at WeWork, like, does the different team had their own like data structure, like, for example, project management or designers, and how, as a whole, all the data got, was being visualized by other teams?
So I mean, it was really complicated. So like Airtable by WeWork was kind of the Wild West. There was stuff happening everywhere, but we had a really patient data team that eventually were built out tooling for that data to get absorbed into our overall data warehousing infrastructure.
I see. We have one question from Sujay.
Mhm.
Can this database be plotted against a time function or set a goal so that one can check the progress of the project?
Yeah. So again, that's like it just depended on the feature of the software. So I think you could probably do this in Sheets too, but you can do like a last modified time to say status, right? Um, so that could monitor, say like, hey, I want to do a time check whenever like the status is last modified. You can do a created date. So I think, yeah, so create a time. So if you're doing a form, right, and new data is coming in, you can kind of measure the volume of requests, and then you can do sort of like created created to done. And that will give you like how long each takes. So passively, you should start to measure like, okay, some projects are really hard, some projects are really easy, but the majority of the projects fall between these two ends.
I see. And like, can one do like a graphic visualization of timestamp and the project progress?
I think so. Choose a date field. Let's see. So let's say last month, right? So using the right fields with the right data set, you can just create that. You can color it based on the status. You can look at it. There's also like a Gantt view. That's a pro subscription. I don't have that right now, but there's a lot of other visualizations that Airtable has out of the box. So do charts, org charts. What else? There's like a map that you can use. Your preview, geocoding, Bakelite, flowcharts. So it just depends on kind of like what use case you're trying to go after. So again, like how you want to interact with the data, how you want to see it, versus kind of what the data structure you have to build to support it is.
Got it. And it's all stored on Airtable's database system.
For Airtable, yes. But again, right, like if you're using Google Sheets, there's a way to communicate to Google Sheets through Grasshopper, through Dynamo, through just wherever. So it just depends on what the tool you're using is and like what the distance between the data there and where it's coming from or where it's going to.
I see. And so on project level, I could see like a lot of use cases of querying it at any point during the project. But if we want to develop some, let's say, project cost estimation recommender tool or project asset tracking, how
Mhm.
across the projects data can be correlated or
So Airtable has this sync feature that you can sync. Oh wow, they added Salesforce and Jira, so I guess they're starting to add more tools, which is always fun. But you can sync to another Airtable base or Excel and Sheets. So this data can be synced from elsewhere. So you can have like, hey, a master, project sheet where all the other bases make sure they sync down from.
and is there any like place where we can write custom code like for loop or like any custom part in coding?
So there is an automation system I haven't played around with. When I automate a lot of Airtable stuff, I usually come at it from Google Apps Scripts in G Suite. But I feel like you could probably have a reasonable chance at success with a lot of the automations that they built. They've really expanded their stuff. Like I haven't really even gone back in the last few months, and they've just added a lot of stuff. So I think the tools are just getting easier and easier and more powerful. So just keep exploring.
So apart from like uh, querying, like a lot of productivity and automation is a value add on through this.
Yeah, I think like a lot of like if you look at organizations end to end, a lot of the savings that you could be having in terms of efficiency might not be in the model work process. And I think if you really just take that approach to not only model efficiency but data efficiency across the whole company, the pressure points are much easier to solve, but sometimes also much more impactful, especially as the size of the company grows.
God. Uh, Question from Sujay is it possible to recreate the data structure by reading data from a Grasshopper XML file into an Excel or Google spreadsheet? Is there an advantage of integrating
Uh,
Airtables?
I I think you might be able to. So I think that might be like a lot of these import functions where on the first kind of import, it'll create the data structure for you. But also, actually just creating the data structure itself is kind of this protocol agreement between, two parties. It's like, hey, I'm going to hand you data like this. Is this data set what you need? So that interaction in itself is healthy as different parts of the company are building kind of their own systems.
God. And yeah, can you give us some examples of use cases you have seen of uh, like in AEC?
For Airtable.
Hmm.
So like this exact thing is something that I've built before, that has requests coming in and kind of Revit going up and sort of a lot of this automated checks. Another really common use case for this is furniture catalogs. So I've seen a lot of furniture catalogs get built in Airtable. It's great for images. There's a great gallery view, where get the nice pictures. But also if you're able to connect it downstream into something like Revit or actually probably Revit's your best use case. You could just pick a lot of the information into your properties, so you're able to kind of quality check, uh, any thing that's in your model that's out of catalog. What else? What other fun things can you do? One of the things you can also do through the year is like if you post it upstream, so you know how Dynamo has the automatic function, so it'll run the script. You can use that to sync kind of small sets of geometry between two platforms. So you can have one post up constantly, and then as you move stuff, the other one will receive. So you can kind of set up your own, little pipeline to transfer some sort of geometry or data between two platforms.
I see. Hmm.
Oh, the other fun one. This one's really fun. You can. Oh, maybe. Let me see if I have that slide deck. Maybe I'll just share the deck with you. Another really fun one is pulling all the Revit data up, but only kind of doing the coordinates and insertion points, and then injecting them back down into Revit and recombining them with families. So you can start with a, oh, I don't have that GIF, but you can start with like a blank model if you have the right Revit families, reconstruct kind of the sort of Revit model that you extracted out. So that way you can kind of have this weird interoperability where if you have file assets across different versions, you can kind of pass a model across two of them without kind of doing the model upgrade downgrade kind of thing.
And it's all like interoperability is like real time. If I change some value in Airtable, the Revit model gets updated instantly.
It could be, right? It's all like how you take that translation downstream. So if you have that family available, the insertion point and kind of like where it is in the model are the only two pieces you really have to communicate. So that way Revit just knows, hey, when I receive this, move this thing here, or like delete it, or like add a new thing here.
Oh. And that part is encoded in the like intermediate script
You
in
could do that. You
Dynamo
could do
or
that like
in.
in PyRevit, right? Or you could do that
Okay.
in like in C sharp. It's just like, hey, go. Well, you could do it in Dynamo too, right? Dynamo, you read what's on the Airtable, and then find the element with the right ID, move it from this point to the new point if it's different.
I see. And that is quite interesting. So it's like in that intermediate script, it's just like a trigger event, check any change in the project database. If there is a change, update the Revit model.
I mean, there's so many ways you can do it, right? You even if there's no change detection, you're like, okay, make a change all the time. If it's in the same place, you're just placing it in the same place, or like moving it to the same place.
Got it. Uh, Another question we have, is it possible to recreate the data structure by reading data from
I
Graphql
think we already
XML?
went over that one.
Oh,
I
sorry,
think we're looking at the
the
error catching.
employee. Yeah.
So I'm not a pro at this, so don't trust me on this. But Airtable, one thing that it really helps on is once you settle on a data type like numbers or whatever, it'll reject post requests that have the wrong format. So that's like a gateway check that this provides for you. But if you're doing like large database systems, should probably like hire an expert in the company that can make sure the company infrastructure is up to snuff to the kind of types of work that you're expecting to extract from it.
I see. And oh, when you were handling this kind of large scale data, what was the main challenge? The data collection or handling or missing values?
So I wouldn't ever like dare to say any data that I handle was large scale data. There's people out there handling like data size that I can't even think about. But I think people is always your hardest. I think that's also why like creating flexible tools really help is getting the right people to give you the right data is pulling teeth as it is. If you make it easy for them and you make it helpful for them, it makes it that much easier. But also just building that culture of like, hey, like don't hoard your data. Like let's all try to build towards data sources of truth because it really helps everyone move on and do their jobs easier.
And is this stored in a GraphQL like structure or
I have no idea. I think you could probably dig into Airtable Stack or like how they do a lot of this stuff on the back end. But I think just the presentation usability, you don't have to dig any deeper for you to extract value from it.
I really like how like simple it is to set up the whole project. It's not time that time consuming.
Yeah, and it's fun, right? Like one of the things is because it's so easy and so flexible, you can do it. You can do like 30 minutes a day, and you could do it, or you could do it like an hour a week. And after the passage of time, you'll slowly start to build this really complex and really robust tool capable of doing like thousands of different things.
Yeah. I'm kind of struggling to see like if there is a integration of emails in this database. Like it's a lot of information and with a noise. So how like important emails could be filtered out and information can be extracted.
So reporting, I think going back to like the time gating question, you can create views that filter. So let's try to do that now. I can create say like a grid view that filters for let's say created is um, 1 week ago, right? So now I don't see anything because nothing was created a week ago. But say I'm doing a weekly report. What I want to do is just email this report out. It's like, hey, this is everything that came in this week. This is their statuses. Or I could just do like some sort of in progress report. But once you have the data in the same place, those updates become much more like, hey, this is what's happening. If you want to get it daily, if you want to get it weekly, that's much a selection of pace. You're not getting like 9,000 emails flying at you for you to build a whole picture. The whole picture is just there for you to kind of consume.
Oh, I see. And like compared to things we could do in Excel versus the Airtable, like, I think we don't need to write like lookup or query function for each column if we are documenting the same in Excel. What are some like other advantages it provides over Excel?
Um, so Excel, like every cell doesn't have like a determinate meaning. Every time you build a table, you kind of have to determine what the structure is. So Airtable like naturally forces you to build entities, right? So each table is, if you especially if you look at it this way, it's kind of like a Revit family, right? Like you have the properties, how it relates to other things, and it constrains you in this way, but it also is more powerful because if you're building kind of in this vernacular in the system, there are those things like you said, like you don't have to do lookups for everything. You don't have to write it in such a weirdly manual way.
Interesting.
And like there's stuff that you can do, like you can group projects by location, right? So there's other things that say for like a weekly review meeting where you're like, hey, project status update, let's go by building, right? How in each building, how many projects are there, what are the project statuses, right? Or it can go by project, depending on just your firm workflow, it just becomes that much more flexible. You don't have to constrain yourself by saying like, hey, someone built this project tracking spreadsheet like 10 years ago, we just have to keep using it, right? Like the tool should evolve as the workflow evolves.
Got it. And how does that querying work on attachments or like image search? Can I
Sorry.
uh, like can I do like a similar Google search? Okay, find me a museum render, and it will look into the database and find. like compare all the images and find the one?
I mean, you could. Airtable does have an image store. You could use the API to create that service. Say like, hey, everything in the status, like pull it out, do a search, come back, update the data. So how complex you want to get is up to you. But also if you're getting into like much more uh, I guess technical stuff, there are probably better tools than Airtable for those purposes. But Airtable is just super accessible.
Have you ever like faced the challenge of merging database? Like for example, there are two projects which are doing project cost estimation, but they might not have the same fields in both project, but now you want to merge it. So
Yeah, so I mean, it just depends on like where those two data sets are coming from and how you need them to come together. But I think you'll find that that is gonna be a very common problem everywhere. Everybody who is storing data, in some sort of way, especially if they're in separate processes, are gonna face some sort of matching problem. I mean, I'm sure even like Netflix has like a whole system dedicated to just how you match things.
got it. Um, is there anything else you wanted to discuss on the demo?
No, I mean, if there's anything else we want to walk through, we can walk through it. But I mean, as you see, like it's fairly flexible. So, ping me with questions if you have any. Oh, I guess I can leave this slide up as we finish so people know how to. All right, so those are all the ways you can contact me. Those are all the things that I'm into. But yeah.
You are like I'm yet to see like how to integrate Firebase in the whole design workflow.
There's some fun things that you can build with that stuff. But yeah, I mean that's a whole nother deck.
I'm I'm just saying like what is Selenium or Splinter used for?
Um, so web scraping mostly. It's supposed to be used for testing, but I mostly use it to scrape data.
I see. Cool. And I think we I almost clarified all the questions I had. One thing I'm just visualizing the way we make the project template is project information, location, layout, and customer. So project is I guess it's more kind of a specific information, and once we get into layout, we get more into the different fields and the data entities we put into. And customer, is it for like sales team, like end use case?
It depends. Depends on like which direction we build it out. So say like sales team has a lot of that data in a different system. You just extract all the information you need, potentially just at the deal level, right? So you have one deal table that has all the information you need, and then your location details, layouts, and all of those other things are kind of connected to that deal. But if you need to build for sales use cases where they need to come in and say like, hey, I'm the salesperson for this building, what are all the deals going on, right? Like, am I over capacity, under capacity? What's my prediction on like how my month is going to go? Then you probably have to create much more robust infrastructure around deals, buildings, and all of that stuff.
Gotcha. Currently, I'm observing like a good trend or what like a more AEC firms integrating Power BI with Revit for visualization and business intelligence. So I also foresee that Airtable could be maybe integrated with Power BI or directly connected to the chain with Revit.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think for Power BI especially, like I don't love it. I don't love the pricing model that it gives you, but it is an incredibly powerful tool. And I think it does start to force kind of this vertical data connection where data consumers are really much more expecting like live data and kind of more accurate data. So I think that pressure is positive, but hopefully that pressure translates to a better selection of tools.
Mhm. Question we have: what do you foresee as a future of data management and automation in AEC? Would it be possible for a design firm with a minimal team to handle large-scale project with the help of smart data management techniques?
I think that's already happening now. I think if you look in the right places, that's already happening. So I definitely do think it's the future. You can't compete with that kind of productivity.
And I I know you mentioned in your desk talk about Zapier or IFTTT automation. Can you like elaborate on like how smart, how to what level we can go? Some use cases.
Um, so I guess this touches on another topic of like no code. So there's increasingly a lot of no code tools, and I would consider like Zapier to kind of that no code tool. So you can get to like a very high level of complexity, interlinking all the different things it gives you access to. But I'm not sure that that level of complexity is where you want to get to with a no code tool. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I think for me there is an upper limit to overcommitting yourself to one system in terms of automation.
Got it. All right. I think the last question I have for today is, what will be your piece of advice to professionals like or students who wants to get more into this field and develop learnings and insights about managing data?
Learn to code. It's always the best time to learn to code. So start now.
Yeah, like any specific language like you recommend or pathway?
I would say like whatever whatever like scratches the problem you're most passionate about. I think just like working on that first problem and having that problem give you the energy to ride through those early hurdles of like all the complexities that come with just getting your something up and running in coding. Once you climb over that cliff of solving that hard problem that you're passionate about, I think it is a lot smoother the rest of the way because every wall you hit, you can smash past it, and on the other side is just more knowledge and more learning.
Got it. And I'm not sure whether uh, this question is very specific to answer, but if a small firm or if anyone wants to start building this kind of database, what kind of maintenance like dollar value they're looking, like in what range?
So on a small firm, if you do it right, you can probably get away with using Airtable for free. You can probably build a lot of the systems if you have G Suite, if you have like SharePoint. You can probably just start building something that allows you to do a lot of this. I know Microsoft has like the Power Automate suite that they're trying to build out. There's some tooling in there that if you're in Microsoft ecosystem, you can start using. I think just use the tools that you have, get to a point of complexity where you actually have have a fair perspective on how the feature set of a particular new tool can impact your work. And at that moment, that switch will be easy. You're like, yeah, Airtable, $20 a user a month, no problem, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of different things and it was quite insightful. Any last things you want to share before we end?
No, all good. Just keep trying. It's gonna be fun in the architecture tech space for the next 5 to 10 years. That's for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, here is the on the screen you can see the contact information and you can reach out to him. Uh, he's quite supportive. And thanks a lot, Libo, for your time to do this. It was quite insightful.
Thank you. Hope it helped. Have a good one, yo.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye.